Dear students, the topic for our new discussion is drugs useful in the management of migraine. Migraine is one of the common causes of recurrent headaches. It affects around 10 to 20% of the general population. The problem is not only the pain, but there will be reduction in the general quality of life. WHO consider migraine as one among the most disabling medical illnesses. The World Federation of Neurology defines migraine as a disorder characterized by recurrent attacks of headache having wide variability in intensity, frequency, and duration. Attacks are commonly unilateral and are usually associated with nausea, vomiting, and anorexia. Coming to the types of migraine. Generally, two types of migraine are seen in general practice. The first is common migraine or migraine without aura, and the second type is classical migraine or migraine with aura. In common migraine, there will be no aura or prodrome and unilateral throbbing headache which may be accompanied by nausea and vomiting. And during the headache, patient may complain of sensitivity to sound as well as light that are known as phonophobia and photophobia. In classical migraine, there is aura or prodrome. The aura is usually a visual type and patient complains of blurred vision or blind spot in the vision. There will be unilateral throbbing headache and later it becomes generalized, and sometimes the prodrome may be sensory symptoms also. These are the few triggering factors which precipitate an attack of migraine, which includes certain foods, disturbance in the sleeping pattern, physical exertion, certain visual, auditory or olfactory stimulus, hunger, and psychological factors. The exact pathophysiology of migraine is still not known. Various theories have been developed to explain the cause of migraine, and we will see about two famous theories. The first theory is vascular theory. According to this theory, triggers leads to intracerebral vasoconstriction. This vasoconstriction produces ischemia of the brain. When the blood flow is impaired below a critical level, aura is produced. The vasoconstriction and impairment in the blood flow is the strongest stimulator for vasodilatation, and when there is vasodilatation, there will be headache. Next we have brain hypothesis and neurovascular hypothesis. This theory believes that the origin of migraine is a little more complex, not like that of vascular theory. According to this theory, migraine is primarily a dysfunction of brain, and the brain stem is considered to be the migraine generator because brain stem has key role in maintaining vascular tone as well as it involves in pain pathway. So following a trigger, there will be stimulation of brain stem which leads to cortical spreading depression. Cortical spreading depression is a slowly progressive depolarization across neuronal membranes as well as glial membranes, which leads to contraction of base of brain as well as cerebral vasoconstriction. Vasoconstriction produces cerebral ischemia, and the ischemia leads to the release of certain mediators, for example adenosine and nitric oxide, which are vasodilator agents. So because of their effects, there will be vasodilatation of the cerebral blood vessels which are innervated by trigeminal sensory fibers. This vasodilatation mechanically activate perivascular trigeminal sensory fibers, which leads to release of certain vasoactive neuropeptides from this trigeminal sensory fibers. These neuropeptides are neurokinin A, substance P, CGRP or calcitonin gene related peptide, VIP or vasoactive intestinal peptides. These neuropeptides exaggerate neuronal inflammation by perivascular leakage and extravasation of plasma proteins. They also leads to stretch of meninges. These changes further leads to vasodilatation as well as stimulation of the trigemino-thalamocortical pain pathway, and this pathway stimulation leads to headache. Now the role of 5-hydroxytryptamine or serotonin in migraine. It is believed that the people who suffer from migraine have a chronically low levels of serotonin in their brains. Whenever a stress happens, the body reacts by increasing the release of serotonin, which precipitates an episode of migraine. The role of serotonin in the pathogenesis of migraine is also supported by two other points. There will be sharp increase in the excretion of 5-hydroxy indolacetic acid, which is a metabolite of serotonin, in the urine of the patients who suffer from an acute attack of migraine, as well as drugs that modulates the 5-hydroxytryptaminergic system can terminate an episode of migraine. Moving on to the treatment of migraine. The aims of the treatment are quick symptomatic relief, to terminate the ongoing attack, and to prevent the further attacks. Migraine treatment can be pharmacological as well as non-pharmacological. The non-pharmacological modalities are identification and avoidance of specific headache triggers, yoga as well as meditation, a regulated lifestyle having healthy diet, regular exercise and sleep, avoidance of excess caffeine, alcohol and stress. These non-pharmacological methods act as an adjuvant to the pharmacotherapy, but during an acute attack, we have to rely on the pharmacotherapy. Pharmacotherapy of migraine is subdivided into those for the management of acute attack of migraine and those for prophylaxis. For an acute attack of migraine, we use the following drugs. To reduce pain and inflammation, we can use NSAIDs. Domperidone and metoclopramide is to suppress the vomiting, and we have certain specific drugs, for example triptans and ergot alkaloids. The commonly used NSAIDs and analgesics are paracetamol, ibuprofen, diclofenac, aspirin or naproxen. For managing the associated nausea and vomiting, we can use prochlorperazine, domperidone and metoclopramide either through the oral route or through the parenteral route. The mechanisms of all these drugs had already been discussed in their respective chapters. Coming to the specific agents, the first group is triptans. So we have sumatriptan, solmitriptan, naratriptan, risatriptan, almotriptan, frovatriptan and elatriptan. These drugs act as agonists at the 5-hydroxytryptamine 1D, 1B receptors. By their agonistic effect at 5-HT 1D, 1B receptor, triptans leads to decrease in the release of serotonin, decreases the release of vasodilatory neuropeptides and their effects, as well as they produces vasoconstriction. 5-HT 1D, 1B receptor is a presynaptic autoreceptor. So by stimulating this receptor, there will be decrease in the release of serotonin. Vasodilatory neuropeptides are CGRP, VIP, substance P, etc. So by decreasing their effects, the effects mediated by these peptides are decreased. The effects are perivascular leakage, extravasation of plasma proteins and stretch of the meninges. All these effects are impaired and also leads to vasoconstriction. This diagram explains the mechanism of action of triptans. By agonism at 5-HT 1D, 1B receptor, triptans produces constriction of the dilated blood vessels. That decreases the release of vasodilatory neuropeptides as well as impair the sensory nerve discharges. Now few points about the individual agents. Almost all drugs can be administered through the oral route, and the routes of administration for sumatriptan are subcutaneous, oral as well as nasal spray, and its transdermal preparations are on the developing stages. Frovatriptan is the longest acting agent, followed by naratriptan. Sumatriptan, risatriptan and solmitriptan, they are metabolized by the enzyme monoamine oxidase and are excreted through urine. So these drugs should not be given with monoamine oxidase inhibitors like selegiline or rasagiline. Then drugs like naratriptan and elatriptan, they are metabolized by cytochrome enzymes and also excreted through urine. So should not be given in hepatic and renal insufficiency. Coming to the common side effects associated with triptans, injection site reactions are seen with sumatriptan, and following its nasal spray there may be bitter taste sensations. Systemic triptans leads to paresthesias, asthenia, fatigue and flushing. These triptans aggravate the vasospasm, so there may be precipitation of coronary vasospasm which may lead to coronary artery disease. Triptans are contraindicated in patients with the history of vasospastic diseases. For example, in coronary artery disease, peripheral vascular disease, or those with cerebrovascular accident or stroke. It should not be used in uncontrolled hypertension and in pregnant ladies. Naratriptan is contraindicated in severe renal or hepatic impairment, the cause we have discussed in the previous slide. And the most important drug interactions of these triptans is with monoamine oxidase inhibitors, and the triptans showing these interactions are sumatriptan, rizatriptan and solmitriptan. Coming to ergot alkaloids, we have two members here, ergotamine and dihydroergotamine. These are partial agonists at 5-HT1D1B receptor as well as adrenergic receptor. This table shows the available preparations, starting dose and maximum dose of the two ergot agents in migraine. These agents usually have poor absorption from the GIT. So for enhancing their absorption, caffeine is added. They have the ability to induce vomiting because they stimulate the chemoreceptor trigger zone. So for preventing the vomiting induced by these agents, we should use certain antiemetic agents, for example metoclopramide. Ergot alkaloids leads to nausea, vomiting, localized edema and itching as well as vasospasm. These vasospasm present at different sites. It may be numbness and tingling of fingers, which may ultimately lead to gangrene of the fingers, and coronary vasospasm lead to chest pain and precordial distress. Contraindications are almost similar to that of triptans. They should not be used in pregnancy, coronary artery disease, peripheral vascular disease, hypertension, impaired hepatic or renal functions, sepsis, and with other vasoconstrictor agents. And if you want to use ergot as well as triptans in a single patient, there should be at least a 24-hour gap between these two agents. Ergot alkaloids are not considered to be the first line agents now because of their poor oral absorption as well as due to their side effects. Actually, we have better agents now. For example, is triptans. We use the ergot alkaloids as a first line agent only in situations where the patient think that the triptans have high cost as well as where the triptans fail to relieve the migraneous headache. Moving on to migraine prophylaxis. Prophylaxis is required in the following situations: when the patient experiences very frequent headaches, for example more than 2 to 3 attacks per month, or the duration of the attack is very long, say for example more than 48 hours, or the manifestations of the headache is very severe, or the symptomatic management leads to adverse drug reactions, and the migraine substantially interfere with the patient's daily routine despite acute management. In all these situations, you need to start the migraine prophylaxis. The commonly used drugs for migraine prophylaxis includes beta blockers, certain anticonvulsants, calcium channel blockers, tricyclic antidepressants, and serotonin antagonist. Beta blockers like propranolol, timolol, atenolol and metoprolol can be used in migraine prophylaxis, but propranolol is considered to be the gold standard agent. It is the best established drug for migraine attack prevention. It is especially preferred if hypertension or anxiety coexisting with migraine. Propranolol is effective in up to 70% of the cases. The usual starting dose is 40 mg twice daily and can be increased up to 160 mg twice daily. Amitriptyline is the most preferred tricyclic antidepressant for the prophylaxis of migraine, but this agent has more side effects than of propranolol. The usual dose is 25 to 50 mg at bedtime. Next we have calcium channel blockers, and among this we have verapamil and flunarizine. Flunarizine is claimed to be more cerebroselective agent. It has additional sodium channel blocking property. It acts by decreasing the intracellular calcium overload which occurs due to hypoxia of the brain. Thus it gives benefit in patients with migraine. The remaining agents are anti-epileptics and serotonin antagonists. Valproic acid, gabapentin, topiramate are the anti-epileptic agents useful in the prophylaxis of migraine. Methisergide and cyproheptadine are serotonin antagonists. But beta blocker agents like propranolol is more efficacious in migraine prophylaxis than these two groups. Coming to newer drugs, during the discussion of migraine pathophysiology, the role of CGRP or calcitonin gene related peptide in causing migraine has been discussed. So the drugs targeting this CGRP gives beneficial effects in the migraine management. So certain CGRP antagonists and monoclonal antibodies has been developed. We have atogepant, which is a CGRP antagonist, and erinumab and fremanezumab. These are monoclonal antibodies against CGRP receptor. These agents are beneficial in migraine prophylaxis. Pharmacotherapy of migraine is broadly divided into acute management as well as prophylaxis. Acute management includes symptomatic therapy as well as specific drug. Symptomatic therapy is by analgesics and antiemetics. Specific drugs are triptans and ergot alkaloids. Prophylaxis is by beta blockers, calcium channel blockers, tricyclic antidepressants, anti-epileptics and serotonin antagonist. And we also have certain newer agents for migraine prophylaxis. These newer agents targets the calcitonin gene related peptides. So that's all about migraine management. Thank you.